All right, guys, what is up? It's Jack, and welcome back to another video. And in this one, I want to revisit a subject that is very important in XDefiant. And as a matter of fact, really important for pretty much any first-person shooter out there. And some games out there had to learn it the hard way. And at the same time, some other games out there, really good games actually, pretty much had their own version of a progression system. So yes, I'm going to be talking about the progression system / prestige system for XDefiant. And the reason why I'm mentioning this now is, despite the fact that I talked about it a few months ago, is because, again, we're getting really close to the release date. And when I see people on Twitter or X asking, wondering about the prestige system for Call of Duty, or even myself the other day when I asked Mark Rubin over on Twitter or X about if there's any update about the progression system details in XDefiant, I can't help but want to make a video on that. And again, as always, it's even better because I get to involve you guys as well, and you guys can give me your ideas. Now, one thing that stands up, now obviously it's already been kind of revealed that the community wants a more traditional prestige system. Basically, like, let's say, for example, a 1 through 10, and not a seasonal prestige system to where it resets, right? So the developers and Mark Rubin are already aware of that. So I think we're going to get a version of that because that's simply what we asked for, right? So cool. All right. But I think there is room to not only keep everything traditional like we requested, but I think there's also room for expansion. And what I mean by expansion is that, and I'm not necessarily just talking about making the prestige grind longer, but I'm saying like everything else that comes with it. Because when you think about it, you've got many attachments, you've got many weapons, you've got many game modes, and we've got factions here in XDefiant, right? And of course, you got pieces of equipment and all that kind of good stuff, right? Excuse me. Now, we have all these things in game, but usually with a lot of these games, whether it's Call of Duty or whatnot, there's usually not enough challenges associated with those things that reward you to a great extent to give you reasons to use all those things. Now, XDefiant is already in a perfect position to give you reasons to use those things. And the reason being is because of no skill-based matchmaking in casual, right? So when there's no skill-based matchmaking in casual, you can use the weapons that are not top tier. You can use the attachments that are not necessarily top tier, or use different combinations of attachments. You can do goofy class setups and stuff like that, and you can legitimately get rewarded for it and make and progress towards unlocking that challenge for more XP or for whatever that other reward is, or whether it's in the form of a camo. And another idea that came to mind that I may or may not have mentioned in my previous video a few months ago talking about the prestige system is factional prestige, right? And what I mean is, like, you can have your traditional prestige system, but you can have it like to where it's like, okay, you can max prestige for every single faction, right? Or you can do something with that, right? If the community doesn't want that, then it's like you can do something with that. They kind of did something like that with Ghosts, to where every single you would have 10 different classes, but each one of the soldiers that you could customize or whatnot had his own prestige, but he was only limited to 1. So I'm thinking to myself, well, what if every faction is limited to 10? Or what if every faction is limited to more than that, right? So it's like, that's interesting. Like, you guys remember Titanfall 2? Titanfall 2, which is one of the greatest first-person shooter games ever released, by the way, which has also been having a resurgence on PC lately. I'm not sure about console, but on PC, I'm pretty damn sure. But anyway, the way they would have you prestige is you had to, they called it gen or generational, So basically, the way you prestige in that game was you had to max out that level, right? But then there were certain type of challenges that you had to complete with certain weapons or certain class setups in order for you to progress to the next gen, right? To max prestige or whatever it was, right? So I don't know how everybody would feel about that. I personally think that if you're going to use, I don't think it should be forced, for a player to use certain things. Like, for instance, challenges are optional, and that's one of the things that makes them great, right? You can choose to do this challenge or not challenge, or if you don't like doing this challenge, it's like, okay, well, you can either do something else, or you can grind the game just by playing the living hell out of it. So so for me personally, again, it's all about options. Options are what made games like Call of Duty so great in the first place. Excuse me. But that's you see what I'm saying? Just like progressing and prestiging should be optional if you want to do that, right? You're obviously going to level up no matter what. And then after that, it's on, right? I think they might have mentioned that like once you max your level, it's like then you start to proceed. I don't know, or I might be confusing it with a previous Call of Duty game. Probably am. But at this point, you see what I'm saying. So this game, because of the lack of skill-based matchmaking and in terms of its content and post-launch content, if you think about it, it's like it's in perfect place. All they got to do is give us the challenges, like the insane amount of challenges, not just to keep the people busy that are interested in 100%ing the game in terms of like doing every single challenge that the game requests. But again, like I said, even with games like Call of Duty, they haven't even touched they barely touched the tip of the iceberg, or gone beyond the tip of the iceberg with the challenge system. There's so many more challenges that they could do. Like for instance, 50 kills by halftime and domination, things like that. Or and another thing we haven't seen is like get a certain amount of kills on this map, for instance, right? Total, and then they can do another one towards like get this amount of kills in the, on this map in this game mode or something like that. You know what I mean? So again, so many different ways they can do it. Attachment specific challenges and stuff like that. I mean, Call of Duty has done that before, and I'm pretty sure they still do, but like it could be taken to a whole another level with this game. And again, this game is in perfect position because you can get away with using lower tier weapons, which would make it that much more satisfying to use everything that there is to use in the game. And it gives the game that much more longevity because you're using all the game's content. Because if there's only one or two weapons that you're using because the game is loaded with skill-based matchmaking or engagement optimization matchmaking or whatnot, guess what? There's a whole bunch of content that's in the game that's not going to be used, which is a shame. So you could hope to make every single weapon top tier or whatnot, but for the most part, people are always going to be using a sort of weapon that there's always going to be one or two weapons that are going to stand out above the rest. That's been true for every single first person shooter, even back in Modern Warfare 2, the original Modern Warfare 2, where everything was powerful. I'm pretty sure that if that game was played competitively, which I don't think it was, but I'm pretty sure if it was, people would probably use an ACR because it's powerful just like all the other weapons in the game, but it's the weapon that has the least amount of recoil, so therefore the easiest to use, therefore the best gun in the game. So anyway, yeah, but those are my overall thoughts, and this is where I want to invite you guys in on this conversation. What would you like the prestige system to be like? Do you want it to be kind of like a hybrid system? It's pretty obvious that that the majority of the community wants a non-seasonal prestige system. They want a system that is that is traditional. So I want to know what specifics would you like to see in the traditional prestige system that they're likely going to implement in this game. And I hope it's not just going to be like a cut and paste of what we've seen previously in Call of Duty, because this game has potential to add so much more to that and expand upon that concept, which is one of the things that made that concept so great in the first place. Because when it was originally brought to us, we never really had something quite like that before at that time. And if we did, it didn't reach its full capability. And to my opinion, it still hasn't, because there are certain things that just haven't really been paid enough attention to in order to make that traditional prestige system that much better. But anyway, with that being said, I'd like to thank everybody for taking the time to watch and or listen. And I can't wait to hear your feedback down below in terms of your ideas. And I personally can't wait for this progressional system to come out after the preseason or whatnot. Or who knows? You never know. They might even surprise us and say, hey, you know what? We've added in the progression system, and we thank you for your patience with the release of the game, and have fun, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, that would be something, wouldn't it? But anyway, thank you again for taking the time, guys, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Have a wonderful day.